my rocket has been painted, and I started off with some fillable sandable primer and then sanded that after 2 coats. And then I added a coat of white primer, and then on top of that 4 coats of silver paint here. It gives it a really nice aluminum-like finish. I was really pleased with the way this came out. So I'm going to let this fully dry. Now up here in the illustration for this, okay, it shows this part here above the transition as being black. Now, you could have masked this off, or I could have masked this off and painted this black. What I'm going to do, though, is use some black adhesive vinyl to put that section in there. And then the rest of this will go on top. Now, my capsule here has been painted, and I'll have to admit I did not paint this. One of my students did. Her name is Catherine. And she is an excellent hand painter, much better than I ever was or ever will be. So she gets credit for the capsule here. But then that will fit in right here. And so this will be black from the capsule down. My paint is fully dry on the rocket here. And we still have this nice aluminum color to it. A few fingerprints there. So now we're ready to put on the decals. Now the trim pieces for the nozzles back here, those are currently drying. I spray painted those black, and we'll put those on at another point here. Also, you'll notice that I still have not put in the shock cord and the parachute. I haven't forgotten, I just wanted to wait till we had everything finished before I did that. Now, there isn't a whole lot of guidance here in the instructions for the decals. Okay, so we can refer to this page here, and basically we've got a United States decal that will go down each side. And then another United States decal that will go on the hatch of the capsule there. And then this arch here will wrap around the top of the transition there. And that's about it. Okay, you can put the Estes ones if you want as well. Now in the front illustration here for the kit, it does show an orange fin and some little orange tabs here. Originally I thought those were going to be decals, but you have to paint those on. I'm not going to worry about it because I really like the way my paint came out, and I don't want to take the chance of ruining it. So here I'm going to start with the most difficult one, which is going to be this arch here. And we're going to cut this just inside the dotted lines. And then here I have a basin of room temperature water, and I've mixed in a couple of drops of white glue. Now that's optional, but theoretically it's supposed to help hold the decals in place better. Alright, and here I'm just going to kind of dry fit this around. So this is going to go around that very top edge of the transition. Okay, it's not quite meeting there, but that's good enough. And I'm going to start and end this on the same side as the launch lug. So if there is a little bit of irregularity, it won't be very noticeable when it's sitting on the launch pad. Alright, so we'll just let that soak for a few seconds there. And the greatest difficulty with this will be because it's so long that it will be prone to tearing. So we want to make sure it soaks enough that it all moves evenly, but not so much that we lose its adhesive. Okay, so that's just starting to slide there. And we want to make sure it can slide all along the length. Right, so that looks pretty good. Alright, so I've got just a little bit started there. Move that back. Okay, and then I'm just going to start running this around the transition. Alright, gently peeling that off, and just basically what I'm doing is removing the cardboard from underneath it as I keep some tension on here. Alright, and as long as it's wet, I can kind of pull it around as I need to. Now the base paper here has slipped a little bit. I don't want to try and change anything at this point. Alright, so here we got it wrapped all the way around. Okay, it actually did overlap a little bit at the end, but that's why I put it there. Okay, I'm going to take a tissue and just put a little bit of the water on it first. And just go around and help squeegee out the bubbles. And any wrinkles that might have got in there. There's a little wrinkle there. Hopefully we can smooth that out. While I'm waiting for paint and decals to dry here, we can go ahead and attach the shock cord. And this is going to be a really easy one since the body tube is so big. Now I'm going to do something a little bit different, and another user suggested this to me. And so what I'm going to do is cut part of the shock cord into kind of a fork position here. And we want that to be just a little bit longer than the length of number 2 there on the shock cord mount. All right, the mount itself you cut out of the instructions, or you can make a photocopy and cut that out. And then here I'm just going to take my glue and I'm going to run a bead of glue all the way down this, like so. And this can be fairly heavy because we're going to squish that glue all the way around in there. All right, now I'm going to put this on and kind of get glue all over it here, and then spread my forked shock cord there. And the idea here is this will help reduce the amount of bulk as we fold this over itself. Okay, so now put the 1 over the 2, squish that down good, and then the 2 over the 3, squish that down. Alright, then we're going to just smear glue all over here. We want a nice uniform film of glue on this. And then we're going to take the rocket here and we're going to put this down at least 1.5 inches into the body tube. Now since I've got so much room here, I can get that considerably deeper. Alright, but I'm still kind of limited by my finger length. And then I'm just going to press that down. And here I'm going to go ahead and use the handle of my hobby knife, and making sure I cover the blade to help push that down. Okay, so if you look down there, my shock cord mount is way down in there where it won't have any chance of impeding the capsule from ejecting properly. Okay, so we can just let that dry. Now I'm not going to attach the other end of the shock cord to the capsule until my very last step, because I'm still going to want to be able to turn this upside down to work on the nozzles. So for now, I'm just going to put the shock cord down there. Once it dries, I'll stuff a little bit of tissue in there to keep it in place. And then in the meantime here, we're going to work on the parachute. The parachute comes mostly pre-assembled, so we just need to carefully unroll the shroud lines here and then just open up the parachute. All right, it is a fairly big parachute here. Okay, and move this over. Okay, so there's one shroud line that goes across two corners, and that should go through the middle. And then you've got the other two that come up the sides there. And so what I'm going to do is, first of all, get them all looped around one finger like this. And then on the sheet itself, I'm going to grab the center of that, or as close as I can find, and then pull those taut. And what should happen is all of the corners of the parachute should be drawn together at roughly the same level. Alright. If they're not, you can just alter a little bit by changing the relative lengths over here where those corners are going to meet up. Now from here you can do one of two things. Okay, you can just tie this to the capsule bottom here by looping through any two holes and then passing the whole parachute through the loop, making it taut. That's what the instructions show. Now if you've seen any of my videos before this, you know I don't like to do that. And instead I'm going to use a snap swivel like this one. Okay, you can get these in fishing departments of department stores or sporting goods stores. The size doesn't really matter to the rocket of the parachute, but it does matter that the snap part here, the clip part, has to be able to fit over the plastic part here of the capsule, and that needs to be able to close freely without binding up, which is easier said than done. Alright, I'll do it when I've got it all done there. Okay, so these do come in different sizes, and you're going to need a big one for the capsule here. What I'm going to do is take those loops that I made and just pass them all through the swivel side, the round eyelet there. Alright, open those back up again like this. So now it's just hanging there. And I'm going to take that entire swivel, pass it up through the loops, and then pull it taut, and it should form its own little knot right there. I'm going to come back and make sure this is still taut. Now it's not. My loop slipped on me. Alright, so if that happens, just go ahead and loosen this back up again. And sometimes you can just retighten it. Other times you might need to go through and pass everything through once more. So if that's the case, just open those loops up, pass your snap swivel back through the way it came, and that'll loosen them. Okay, go through and reattach those loops on your finger. Come back to the parachute. Okay, pull that taut again. And here I've got them wound up around each other. So I'm just going to start this whole process over. Alright, now usually we do this on the first try. Alright, this is good practice as well. Alright, so once more I've got all the loops here. Okay, grab the center of the parachute, pull those tight, make sure everything's even once more. And now I'm going to make sure I don't let go of the lines back here, which is usually how they become uneven. Okay, open that up once more, pass them through, pull it down, and now we check it, and that looks better. So once you've got this the way you want it, then go ahead and put just a little tiny dot of glue on the knot. Okay, and just work that in a little bit. And then once that's dry, that'll keep it from unraveling. Okay, so now when I'm ready to put my parachute on, I just open up the snap, put that in like this, close the snap. Now this is what's causing a little difficulty, is even this big snap swivel is almost too small for this. I've probably also had too much caffeine today already. There we go. Okay, and that can still freely move about that. Okay, so right now I'm just going to let that glue dry, and then we'll do a final assembly once everything else has been added to the rocket. Here I've cut a strip of black self-adhesive vinyl, and this is the same stuff you use for Cricut or Silhouette machines, craft cutters of various types. And I'm going to simply wrap this right around like this. And so this stuff is kind of graduated on the back, so it'll give you an idea of how long it needs to be. So if I put this on upside down, okay, I can see where I need to cut, and I'm going to give myself just a little bit of overlap there. So if I cut right at that bottom of those two letters, I will have that. Okay, now you can put this into a little bit of soapy water if you want to be able to move it easier. I am hoping that since this is a really simple application, I don't need to do that. Alright, and I will probably proceed now to prove myself wrong. But I want this to be right at the edge of the forward part of the body tube. And keep a little bit of tension on it so we don't have wrinkles and bubbles later. Okay, and that just overlaps that nicely. Now you may want to add some black right here to the edge, and you can do that either with some paint. I'm just going to use a permanent marker here. So I'm just going to take this and blacken the edge here, so if anything does show, it'll just be more black. There we go. Okay, so that's it for the decals there. You'll probably want to clear coat this. Now I'm a little bit leery of I had such a nice finish here, I'm just hoping the clear cut doesn't change that. I'm also going to clean this really gently with a little bit of rubbing alcohol, I think, to get rid of all these fingerprints. The clear coat will help avoid the fingerprints later on. Okay, so the final bit that we need to do here is to attach our shock cord to the capsule, and here I'm just going to tie it around one of the areas of the crossed plastic here. In fact, you can go diagonally if you want, and your fingers are small enough. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to tie that here. Alright, go ahead and pull that from multiple directions. And then I'm going to cut off this excess rubber here so it doesn't get cut or get caught in the space between the body tube and the capsule shoulder. I've managed to tangle up the capsule here in the shroud lines. Now I almost forgot, but the last thing we need to do is to attach the nozzles here. And so I've pre-painted these off camera. Now, since this has been painted, there is some concern about gluing this onto paint, but these really aren't heavy. They're not going to receive a lot of stress, so I think we're okay. Now, the instructions show using a tube-type plastic cement, and that will probably work. I prefer to use a little super glue anytime that I'm bonding dissimilar surfaces. Usually I'll use thick super glue for that, but I think the regular viscosity is going to work fine for this one. So here I'm just going to put a little bit on all the way around. Now this is the odd nozzle that fits around the engine clip there. So it's got this cutout here, and then there's a little projection, and that's going to go in the slot there. Okay, so once we've got this, we just pop this down into place, and it's held in place partially by the remnants of the body tube that we cut out there. Alright, and then just make sure that the clip still clears. And we'll do this for the rest of them as well. Alright, now we just need to make sure that everything is resting flush there. Alright, and then we'll do the same thing with the bigger nozzles. Okay, now remember these are shaped such that the taller side here, I'm checking to make sure instructions concur here, but that should be on the inside. Yes. Okay, and there should be a little notch in there. Alright, so I don't know, it's really tiny here, but there is a little projection here on the low side of the nozzle, and that should line up with a little notch. It's kind of got filled in a little bit by paint there. But this will make it so that the taller portion of the nozzle should be up against the motor mount there. Now you may notice here is a little bit of regions in here where the paint didn't get in. I can fix that with a paintbrush later on. So the same way here, I'm just going to apply a little bit of super glue to the edge. Alright, then we're going to apply that in here. It's going to get a little crowded now. Alright, but that should pop into place. And again, yeah, you can see some white there. We fix that with a little bit of paint later on. Alright, and just continue doing this with the other three. Go through and make sure everything is straight and aligned correctly. That one's a little off. just a little bit on the out edge there, and just kind of let it run in. Okay, we'll just let that dry for a few minutes. The nozzles are glued in place, and originally I had put this together with the snap swivel just going onto this, and even though it does fit, it was really hard to get my fingers in there to do that. So what I've done here is simply taking a short piece of 100-pound test Kevlar line and just made a loop here on the capsule, and then just glued the knot there with a little bit of super glue. But now this makes putting things together a whole lot easier. So I can just snap that on there. Alright, and I don't have to be concerned with getting my finger around those things. Okay, so now we can just pack all this up using your favorite parachute folding method. Okay, now I'm not prepping this for launch, so there's no wadding or anything in there. We'll just put this all together. And there we have it. Okay, so our completed Little Joe 1. As I said, I'll probably still do a clear coat on this later on after I find a way to clean off the fingerprints. And I need a little touch-up work down there on the nozzles. But I hope you had fun building this. It was a fairly challenging kit. Have a great launch and a safe recovery, and please stay tuned for more of my videos.